crime against humanity, against us, telling the lies, telling all the world that there was no people there.
We are protesting against the UK government just selling us off.
How can we fight for Ukraine? We can fight for Israel. What about the Chagossian people?
In the 1960s, the US and the UK secretly agreed to displace the indigenous population of the Chagos Islands, an archipelago in the middle of the Indian Ocean, so that the Americans could build a military base.
And between about 1967 and 1973, the UK authorities forcibly evicted more than 1,500 islanders, sent all to Mauritius or Seychelles. And they did this first by preventing the return of islanders who had gone on trips to Mauritius or Seychelles, which was something that they quite commonly did. Later, they restricted supplies and wound down work on the coconut plantations. And then finally, in the final months, they coerced the remaining islanders onto crowded ships.
Britain had governed the Chagos Islands as part of Mauritius. When Mauritius was granted independence, the UK retained the islands, officially known as the British Indian Ocean Territory. The UK claimed that the islands had no permanent population, but in reality, the Chagossians had lived there for centuries, the descendants of slaves brought over to work on coconut plantations.
Generations and generations of Chagossians living on their home, and they were happy. And then all of a sudden, somebody else wants what doesn't belong to them. They get taken out of the Chagos Islands, fobbed off to Mauritius, where they live. We've lived a life of absolute poverty.
The establishment of the British Indian Ocean Territory received widespread condemnation, and after years of international pressure, Foreign Secretary David Lammy announced that the islands would be handed over to Mauritius. Many Chagossians who've been able to live in the UK since 2002 have been left frustrated by this announcement. While views within the community differ, there is anger and frustration amongst many that they once again have not had a say in their homeland's future.
They sell us like a vegetable in a supermarket. When they want to sell it, they sell my parents. They sell us.
We don't even get to choose what we want. We don't get to say about our future, and that's just wrong. In this day and age, that should never have happened.
We fight. We're still fighting. When we got this passport, I went 2004. This suffering repeat on me when I went in UK. I'm still 8 days in Gatwick Airport and fighting for my right to have a place.
Do you feel a sense of time pressure in this, in that are you concerned that your parents might pass on without being able to return?
Yeah, especially my dad. He's 84. He cried and he always said like his dream is to go back home and die there. And I think everyone deserves that.
What is happening to our home is in somebody else's hands. It shouldn't be like that. This is just racist colonialism in my head.
The fact that the entire indigenous population were expelled from their homeland unlawfully and were left destitute on the shores of Mauritius and Seychelles. And it was very clear to us on the basis of those facts and that law, that in fact the UK and the US government had committed crimes against humanity. And what we have said since is those crimes continue to be committed and will continue to be committed until the Chagossians are allowed back to their homeland, until they are given proper restitution, proper compensation, and that the islands are restored to allow them to live there.
The number of people born on the islands is dwindling as they get older. We spoke to one woman whose journey from the Chagos Islands was particularly harrowing. Her nephew interpreted for us.
She said it was quite hard because when they was leaving, they had to travel by boat, and many people was having seasicknesses. And she was pregnant and she gave birth on the boat. She said luckily she had some family on the boat, but that was affecting everyone quite a lot because there's no medical assistance or anything.
It must be hard for you. You were interpreting for us when we were talking to your aunt, and hearing that story, it was heartbreaking for me, but it must feel horrific for you.
It is. That's why earlier when my friends was giving me the microphone, I didn't want to speak because I would get emotional. So when you're emotional, when you speak, you will say things which you might regret after, you know what I mean? So there's nights we go in tears because when we think like we could be in certain way where we like having our own crops, animals, fishing, we are born like that. You know, we have that in the blood. And then I don't say the life in the UK is not good, but the way of rent is raising, everything is getting more expensive, and I think like I can do all this by my hand. I don't need to go to the supermarket. I can grow it up in my back garden. But here, not everywhere you can do it. You're not even allowed. You know, so it does get you emotional because when you think like the injustice which has been going on, and we are in modern age. Everyone should understand like how can we fight for Ukraine, we can fight for Israel or whatever country, we can fight and help for the poor in Africa and all this. But what about the Chagossian people?
Is part of the problem in raising awareness that the Chagossian community in the UK is very small, and compared to other ethnic groups in the UK, it's not a massive community. Is that fair to say?
No, we are. There is about, apparently, last consensus says that there's between 5,000 to 7,000 Chagossians in the UK. The trouble is that this is exactly what they did in 1965. We are being segregated. We are being moved left, right, centre, north, south, east, west, so that we don't get to come together, see each other and do something about it. Now there's a huge population of Chagossians in West Sussex, in Crawley. There's another big one in Manchester. There's another big one in Leeds. But we have Chagossians in the Seychelles. Archipelago Islands has a huge number of Chagossians there. We don't hear about them. We don't even have contact with them. We have brothers and sisters that have been moved to different parts of not just this country, but of the world that don't know each other anymore. We know, but we don't get to meet, we don't get to see each other, we don't get to socialize anymore. And that is what this government and the Mauritian government wanted to happen to us. They thought that by segregating us to different areas, we wouldn't be able to get together and have a voice and make ourselves be heard. But it doesn't work out like that.
How did you feel when you heard the news about the UK government's deal with Mauritius?
You know, I have shock because I'm a member with Chagossian bosses. We're fighting, but it's like they take a knife and pull it in my chest. You know, this is like a surprise, but we will not let them, continue to abuse us. We will not give up. We will fight for our rights.
Are you hopeful for the future?
Not right now, no. Not as long as they don't involve us in this deal. Not as long as they've given our future to Mauritius government, no. No, until it is given to us, no, there's no hope.